I love client wins. I love success stories, and I love sharing them with all of you because it is a big thing when we successfully get our children to sleep through the night, especially when you have been battling bedtime struggles and overnight wakings for weeks, months, and years at a time. Am I right? So, for those of you who are new here, my name is Sarah Bossio, and I am the owner and lead pediatric sleep expert at Your Zen Baby Sleep. I work with exhausted parents of children ages 0 all the way up to 8 years old. I help them to create flexible and sustainable schedules, establish peaceful bedtimes, and teach their children to sleep through the entire night so that the whole family can get the sleep that they need and deserve. We are going to be talking today about my little friend named Eric, who is a 3-year-old who is on the struggle bus and is now sleeping a solid 11 hours all night long. Let's get right into it. As a disclaimer, Eric is not this toddler's name. I am going to protect this family's anonymity and confidentiality. So it is a completely made up name, and I will make sure that I am protecting all other identifying information so that you don't have any idea who these people could possibly be. But we will be talking about circumstances and scenarios so that you have an idea of what it could look like to work together and successfully sleep train a 3-year-old who does give you some ups and downs. When I work with my 3-year-olds, the 2 things that I usually go to and suggest immediately are a gate at the door and utilizing the chair method. So for this family specifically, we needed a gate at the door because we knew that Eric was in a big kid bed and would constantly run out of the room and go look for mom and dad. Gates at the door are really helpful because we don't need to shut the door and lock the child in, but it does create a physical boundary. I want you to think about when our child was in a crib. It created a physical boundary for our child. We never had a problem putting them in the crib and having that physical and visual boundary. They were safe. They weren't allowed to get out. This is exactly what the gate does for the entire room. It gives them ownership to walk around the room and be in the room, do whatever they want to in their room, but it creates that boundary that it is okay for you to create, that they cannot leave the room once the gate is shut and the lights are off. This was the first step. My second suggestion to this family was to use the chair method. And the reason why I always suggest the chair method for my 3-year-olds and up is because oftentimes we are laying down with our children in bed, and the chair method is a really gradual way for removing parents from in the bed to beside the bed to middle of the room to doorway to out of the doorway. Interestingly enough, though, the parents said, actually, I think Eric is going to be really stimulated with us in the room with him, and we really are working on this because we don't want to be in the room with him anymore, and we really would like to change things up in a quicker way. Is there another suggestion that you have? And this is totally an option for families. So we went right to time checks, and the process of time checks is the same for toddlers as it is for babies, except when we're doing the check-ins for toddlers, we are not entering the room. We are just going to the gate because we're assuming that the toddler is going to be standing at the gate and not likely laying nice and quietly in their bed on those first couple of nights because they are not going to be happy that mom and dad are not putting them to bed, correct? So this is just the groundwork of basically my first initial recommendations when we are sleep training toddlers. What I want to talk about next is what the baseline we were working with Eric and where he was coming from and what mom and dad's goals were. Mom and dad came to me because they had recently had a baby several months back, and sleep wasn't great before the baby came, and now it really had come to a head where now they were up with 2 kids in the middle of the night, and Eric was giving them a lot of pushback at bedtime. It was taking about 2 hours to fall asleep every night, and most nights he was waking up for about 30 minutes in the middle of the night. He still was taking a nap during the day, and I was curious about the schedule because at 3 years old, oftentimes we do need to drop a nap. So I was wondering if we needed to drop the nap and that would help fix bedtime, or if all of this was just a result of a really overtired kid. Their goals were to have less bedtime battles, completely eliminate the night waking, and figure out the schedule, whether or not he needed to keep the nap or drop the nap. Again, like I discussed, we decided to do the time checks method. I prepped mom and dad and let them know that with time checks and in toddlers, there probably would actually be an uptick in crying versus using the chair method. However, it would be a much shorter period of time and we would get right to the point of sleep training and getting to the success piece sooner rather than drawing it out with the chair method. So chair method, usually we see less crying and protest in our toddlers. It just takes about 10 to 12 days. Mom and dad were already really sleep deprived with their baby and they really wanted to see quicker results because they were feeling the toll of the sleep deprivation from nursing around the clock and really needed to see success with Eric and his sleep. On night 1, we started bedtime at the normal time, around 7 o'clock, and the biggest change to the bedtime routine was providing that structure that I'm always preaching about. So providing structure, providing boundaries, and using a visual schedule, which Eric loved. I love having a visual schedule because then it's not them listening to our words, it's them seeing the pictures of what is next on the routine. Also allowing Eric a choice in the last 5 minutes of the bedtime to do whatever he wants. Once the timer went off, Eric was required to get into bed, dad left the room, and the sleep training routine started. It sounds all fine and dandy, but he did protest for 55 minutes for that first night, which actually, to be honest, is a lot less than what we usually see with our toddlers on night 1 of sleep training. I normally prep parents that it could be upwards of an hour and a half. So he was asleep before 8:30 on the first night, which is actually earlier than he usually was falling asleep on average for most normal nights. He did wake up once in the middle of the night and the parents had to do 2 time checks in order to reassure at the gate, I love you, you're doing great, I will come back to check on you. And he went back to sleep, waking up the next morning at 5:45, which was very early for the morning time waking, but we celebrated the win of getting up and we turned his light to green ahead of going to the gate to say, hey, you did it, you slept through the night, and honored his body and went about the rest of the day. We continued over the next couple weeks to offer the nap as we were sorting out the nighttime sleep, and within a few nights, his bedtime onset of sleep reduced from 55 minutes all the way down to 15 minutes. So after the first week of sleep training, he started to fall asleep within 15 minutes and did not have any more night wakings. So in the second week, what our goal was to really figure out, did he need the daytime naps anymore? We took the weekend as an opportunity to experiment with that. And what we figured out was that when he did not nap on the weekend, it actually resulted in more broken nighttime sleep. And this said to me that he did need the naps because when we dropped them, he was more overtired at bedtime. He was up more frequently at night. And that was his body telling us, I actually still need to nap during the day. We still capped the nap at an hour and a half, and we expected about 11 hours of nighttime sleep. And this was all the knowledge that we gained over the course of our first 2 weeks together. Mom and dad were really intent on trying potty training during this experience, and they decided to take a little break from the sleep training and do our third week in several weeks after our first 2 weeks together so that they could really solidify the potty training and then catch back up on the sleep training in a couple weeks to see if the potty training would affect sleep at all. And I was agreeable because we really had succeeded in all of our goals for falling asleep in a short period of time and sleeping through the night and establishing that great schedule. I followed up with mom several weeks later and did another week of sleep log tracking to see how Eric was doing now that he was potty trained, not night trained, but day trained. And mom had said that initially the potty training did affect the sleep. We were using pottying a lot as an excuse to get out of the bed at bedtime. And my biggest suggestion to mom was if we continue to use that as an excuse and we were out of bed more than once or twice, the solution is to leave the training potty in the room and allow Eric to use the training potty in his bedroom. Most of the time, kids don't need to actually use the potty, and it is just an excuse to get out of the room, so they won't actually use the potty in the bedroom. At that point, they'll just realize, oh, I can't leave the room, and I might as well just go to bed. This is exactly what happened with Eric, and he was able to then get back on track and start to sleep. Mom will be working on night training later on when he is more developmentally ready, and he is now officially a Your Zen Baby Sleep graduate. I am always so proud of all of my families. My sleep programs have a 98% success rate because my families are such great teachers and they are so committed to really helping their children learn and being consistent in the process of sleep training and following the program and all of my suggestions. If you'd like to learn more and you want more information about that, please go to the link in my show notes, and on your way down, give this video a like so that I know that you find this helpful. Leave a comment if you have any questions about sleep or sleep training, and subscribe to my channel so that you are the first to know when I post my new sleep content videos. And as always, from my living room to yours, thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to see you next time.